Hey guys, it's Scott from fxmissions.com. Just a note, I've finished the trilogy of anthologies from the forefront, and all 3 books are currently available on Amazon. Welcome to From the Forefront, an FX Missions podcast. Stories about courageous souls who felt the call of missions and obeyed. On the show this month, we'll be joined by Ernie Peacock of Peacock Ministries. He is a longtime missionary who's got some exciting stuff to talk to us about when it comes to a church plant they're getting ready to put together for Guadalajara, Mexico. Ernie's been on the field for many years and a lot of assignments. He is joined by his wife, Sandra. They've got grown children, and these guys are out there doing it. Some interesting stuff from Ernie. We appreciate him joining us. He's also trying to build a team, so listen in for that. He'll be announcing some details about team formation for the church plant there in Guadalajara, Mexico. It was great to meet him recently and be with him in the town of San Antonio, Texas. So thanks for joining us for this edition of From the Forefront. And make sure and listen all the way to the end. Ernie will have some information about how to be in touch with him. Thanks for joining From the Forefront from FX Missions. Today we're being joined by Ernie Peacock. Ernie is a guy I've recently met, actually looking forward to get to know a lot better, but we were actually together at the same event in San Antonio. I guess it would be maybe a month ago. And I saw, Ernie, thanks for joining us, by the way, first of all.
Great to be here, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw your banner, I guess it was, with the letters GDL. And GDL might not mean something to everyone, but to me, and I think to you and your sign, it meant Guadalajara, Mexico. And so that got my attention. I passed by your booth the first time you weren't there, and I came back by and hovered a little bit and finally got to talk to you. So thanks for humoring me and my interest in Guadalajara. As I understand, Ernie, you and Sandra, your wife, are missionaries getting ready to celebrate your 30th year as world missionaries, or maybe you are celebrating that right now. And currently you're in the States getting ready for your next project. And I know I'm not doing an awesome job of introducing you. So would you take just a minute and tell who you are, where you're from, where you came from, and we'll know you better by that means.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Scott. Well, again, my name's Ernie Peacock, and my wife, Sandra, and I are Assemblies of God World Missionaries, and we've been serving in missions. We are in our 30th year. As a matter of fact, this time 30 years ago, we were actually raising our support to go to the field the first time. My oldest son, he will turn 30 on Thursday. Wow. And he was 3 months old exactly when we got to our assignment in southern Mexico, down just right outside of Acapulco on the coast. It sounds glamorous, but it was anything but a glamorous first year in missions. Wow. And so, yeah, you and I met recently, and actually the banner, it says ICGDL. Right. And you're exactly right. A lot of people don't have a clue what that means. And it's two-sided. Purposely, we want people to inquire about what is ICGDL. And it actually stands for International Church of Guadalajara, GDL being the call letters for the city of Guadalajara. And if you ever visit, and hopefully you will, as well as some of the listeners, as you're walking throughout the city, you'll see T-shirts and other souvenirs that you can buy that actually have like GDL on it. So that's kind of like that's the identifying marker there for us.
Absolutely.
Sandra and I, as I said, we're in our 30th year, and we are going back to Guadalajara. It's interesting because we started out in southern Mexico We were in Mexico for 17 years. 15 of those 17, we were in the city of Guadalajara.
Wow.
And Sandra and I are church planters. It's really the passion that the Lord has placed in our heart, and I believe it's the equipping as well that He's given us. And during our 15 years, of course, while we were in southern Mexico, initially I was learning the language. My wife was born in Mexico, and her parents moved across to the American side when she was about 3 years old. So she has the language down pat. As a matter of fact, she's a bilingual educator.
Wow.
So I guess the Lord, when He put us together 35 years ago, when we met and married, He knew that I would need an interpreter when we got to Mexico. So we did that. We did plant a church when we were down on the coast, but when we got to Guadalajara, we kind of really felt like tent crusades, that type of church planting or pioneering was what the Lord wanted us to do. And so we began to pursue that. We were mentored by a dear friend, David Godwin, who's a great missionary, church planter, still missionary at the age of, he's pushing 80 now.
Wow.
So pretty close to 80, between 75 and 80 years old.
Very cool.
Just still on the mission field. And so we planted our first church in Guadalajara using the tent crusade, and we planted the subsequent 11 churches. We planted 12 churches in Guadalajara in that general vicinity. And I don't know if you've ever been, but Guadalajara is the second largest city in Mexico. Conservatively speaking, it's about 8 million. Realistically, it's probably closer to 9 or above, 9 million residents. And it's an incredible city. Very technologically advanced. It's probably the most technologically advanced country or city in not just Mexico, but Latin America.
Right.
And one of the reasons being is because it is the Silicon Valley of Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of tech industry that has relocated there. They have their factories there, huge warehouses. It's really helped to bring development to the city. It's an incredible place. So we left there in 2004 and traveled and ministered throughout Latin America. I was working with a couple of different great ministries. The last one being, we worked with Book of Hope, which is now One Hope, ministry to children and youth. And then I worked with Convoy of Hope, which is a disaster relief compassion ministry. And I traveled all throughout Latin America with them as well. And then my wife and I actually just finished a term. We were asked to go and help to initiate a church planting strategy nationwide in the country of Spain. So we were a part of the national team helping them to launch this initiative to plant 1,000 new churches by the end of the year 2020. We were there 3 years working with that initiative. During that time, we didn't personally plant, but we were a part of the development and mentoring and ministry in a lot of those churches. Just during our time, over 300 new churches were planted.
Wow.
And so we felt, that God began to open another door prior to our leaving Spain. In the last 6 months, we actually relocated to Madrid and pastored the International Church of Madrid there in the heart of Madrid, near the Atocha train station. And just it was a great experience and something I believe the Lord used to inspire us. Of course, we had already felt the leading to return to Guadalajara, but I believe it was that experience at IC Madrid that really became the catalyst for us to return to Guadalajara with a specific vision of planting an international church.
That's very cool. I have yet to make it to Spain. It's certainly on my radar. I've been traveling in Latin America for a number of years and actually was in Guadalajara for my first time maybe about 12 months ago. And so GDL, I was getting tickets to Guadalajara. So that airport code is part of the reason why it stuck out to me in recent memory. I had gotten tickets.
Well, I hope you had a great experience.
Did very well. I've been to, I would say, a large percentage, maybe a third of the time that I've spent in Mexico has centered around Mexico City. And so I first was in Mexico City in 2005. And, that's the enormity of Mexico City is staggering.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
It really is. And there's so many Mexico cities inside of Mexico City, so it's just so big. In that way, the contrast of Guadalajara was very nice comparatively. Met some friends there, know some folks there, some really, really good guys. And also, had the experience of the city and the contrast of Mexico City to Guadalajara was to the great advantage of Guadalajara in terms of cleanliness, accessibility, traffic,
infrastructure.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's a well developed area, and obviously a lot of first world experience and conveniences there, and also in some ways for the gospel is creates opportunity as well. So I'm thankful to see you guys heading out over there.
We're very excited, Scott, and I just kind of to capture your listeners at this point in time, I just wanted to let them know that not only are we going back to Guadalajara to plant an international church, and we can unpack that and why an international church in Guadalajara, but also just to let them know that we are recruiting a team where we've been praying and asking the Lord to send us workers that will come and work alongside of us. We're building a true team. It's not just I'm the one in charge and calling all the shots. We want to bring a team of creative people who have good work ethic that want to come alongside of us in 2018 and help us to launch the International Church of Guadalajara. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And if there are any people that are kind of like, well, you know what, God's been stirring my heart to go somewhere and do something. And just wanted to let them know that maybe this is the opportunity that the Lord has been speaking to them about.
Absolutely. Well, I saw some of the communication you'd sent me, but if you don't mind mentioning, what kind of jobs or what kind of positions or, what kind of tasks are you trying to fill there inside your team?
I appreciate you asking that. First of all, let me just say that the International Church, and if you don't mind, let me kind of get into some of the logistics before we get to some of the needs. In Guadalajara, there are three target audiences that we're looking to reach. And all three are what I put into the influencer category.
Okay.
These are people that have positions of influence or will soon work in positions of influence, whether it be in the marketplace as doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, etc., or whether it be in the political realm as well. And so just to break that down a little bit, because Guadalajara is becoming an international hub. You have all of this technology industries there, which has brought in people from all over the world to run these industries, as well as the supporting companies and industry that's been created out of that as well. So you have people from all over the world that are living there and working there. And then you have Guadalajara is a major university city. Just the University of Guadalajara alone has over 250,000 enrolled students.
Oh, wow.
And that's not on one campus. They have several campuses spread out throughout the city. But just to speak of the magnitude of the student population, and again, one university.
Wow.
Of course, that's the largest. It's probably the major, but there are other very important universities that cater to not just the Latin American internationals, but people from all over the world that come there to study. And so we have the professional crowd, we have the student population. And by the way, to my knowledge, at least I know within our organization, but I'm unfamiliar with any groups that have made any major inroad into any of these universities. And so the university population is a harvest field, and we want to go after them. And then the third is the Mexicans themselves, the Mexican Gen Xers or the millennials that have completely changed since I was there. I left in '04. So we have a new generation of Mexicans that have grown up with a very different mentality. First of all, they're very educated. Secondly, they work in the global marketplace. Thirdly, they speak English very well, and they send their children to English speaking schools. And so English and that international mindset is our global mindset is a big part of who they are personally and culturally. And I guess the one common denominator in all of these three groups that I'm speaking of is English. The internationals speak English, and we saw that in Madrid. I mean, we had 45 nations represented at the International Church of Madrid.
Wow.
And from all over, from China, all over Asia, all over Europe, and throughout Latin America. And English was the common denominator. And so we desire to follow the format that, to some degree, of what we had, and we'll contextualize it in Mexico because Madrid, even though they speak Spanish, it's Europe, and so it's a different mentality.
Yeah.
But we're not reaching one culture, which is very cool. So we're not highlighting one particular culture either.
Yeah.
Not the American culture nor the Mexican culture. This is going to be a true international work. And so what they have in common is the English, but what they also have in common is they are, I guess, of the age group where they want to connect. They're looking for people and places to connect. And I believe that IC Guadalajara will become that.
Yes.
These three groups that I've mentioned have become the new unreached peoples groups in the world. You know, you're looking, if you look at Europe, and this is kind of the context that we're bringing the IC church out of. Europe has been planting IC churches very successfully for over 30 years. And so have certain areas of Asia. And those churches have really, in those countries, become the tip of the spear in many regards, because in a lot of those countries, the national church is very small normally. And not just that, but they're reaching pretty much their people. They're reaching the people of their country that speak their language. And they're really not paying too much attention to the international populations or these other groups that I mentioned that they're not reaching the student population, and they're not reaching the millennials, the Gen Xers. And so this has become a new unreached peoples group in these major cities around the world, not just in Mexico.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, they're with the trend to urbanizing, I mean, over the last 50 years, and then you put in the layer of postmodernism. You know, that's the storm you're talking about attacking. And I think it's extremely strategic. I can see with, you know, just knowing a little bit about the urbanizing trend of the globe, plus the, you know, like beyond postmodernism thought, this generation is going to stand for and be counted as something. If we're approaching it properly in the gospel, that harvest will not be incomplete. So I applaud your strategic approach there, and with the international piece as well. You know, a lot of times there's opportunity and vulnerability, personal vulnerability that's created when you're outside your context, your normal culture, that you wouldn't experience in all the built-in surroundings of where you're from. So very cool.
Exactly.
Very, very, very cool. I like everything you're saying. Really appreciate you taking time to break that down. Did you want to mention specifically anything in addition about the team or anything specific about that?
Yeah, Well, first of all, there are no age restrictions. Obviously, you've got to be at least 18 years
Sure.
old, but to come on a long-term basis.
Mhm.
And we do work with, and we have in the past worked with many short-term
Okay.
teams, people that say, you know what, God's not calling me to go for a year or 2 years, but we'd like to assemble some of our young adults or some
Mhm.
of our youth and take a team and work with you in Guadalajara and do some evangelism.
Mm.
And so we've done a lot of evangelism with young people coming from the States, as well as church construction.
Yeah.
Sandra and I, we built 12 churches and a lot of other facilities while we were there. But in terms of the long term, there are two options to serve, and one is the MAPS, which is a Missionary Advanced Placement Service.
Mhm.
Understanding I'm with the
Sure.
Assemblies of God, so people that even if they're not Assemblies of God, they're still welcome
Right.
to come, as long as our doctrine, the basics of our
Sure.
doctrine, our core doctrine lines up. We welcome. Jesus said, "Whosoever will," right? And so that's our motto.
Yes.
And if God's calling you, then we want you to come serve.
Mm.
And so we prefer to route you through what we call the pipeline,
Uh-huh.
through the Assemblies of God. And a pipeline basically is the application process. That you make initial contact, then there's follow up there and information that you need as well. But the MAPS assignment is a 1 year minus 1 day. You can't be 1 year, but it's 1 year minus up to 1 year minus 1 day assignment. That's the MAPS assignment.
Uh-huh.
And the second assignment is more of what we refer to as a missionary track. People who say, maybe they have a call to missions, but they're not sure that they want to do that as a vocation,
Mhm.
a lifetime call.
Mhm.
And this really helps them filter through some of the emotions and the experience to determine whether it is a lifetime call. And so the missionary associate is a 1 year to 2 year assignment. It's a little more detailed. There is some language school required,
Mhm.
but there are 2 tracks, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking in the church that we're looking to launch in 2018. We're looking for people that have media. Obviously, this is a tech savvy generation that we're working in, and especially in Mexico, the church has not tapped into that.
Right.
In Madrid, about 95% of the people that visited the church, and we were running between 20 and 30 visitors, averaging every Sunday during the 3 services that we had.
Wow.
Between about 95% of those 20 to 30 visitors actually found us on the web.
Mm.
Probably about 85 to 90% of those that visited were actually just passing through, but they wanted to. It was interesting on their vacation, looking for an English-speaking church to come and worship at.
Very.
And we were one of the only ones in Madrid. The church was bilingual, and we plan to do a bilingual format.
Mm-hmm.
As well in Guadalajara. So we're looking for media and tech savvy people that have experience working with computers, Macs, a lot of graphics, web, sound. We're looking for people who know how to work the media, the social media, to do networking for us through the different media types that are out there. We're looking for people who have worship ministry experience and want to be either a leader or part of our worship team. And we're probably looking at have multiple services. So it's always good to have more than one leader.
Right.
We're looking for people as well, university campus outreach coordinator, someone who can lead that effort for us, children, youth, young adult ministry leaders, someone that has administrative experience, be our office administrator. We need an accountant. We need people who have English as a second language experience or want to learn. We will have all of those materials. And so we want to offer English as a second language to kind of be a touch point for the church. And then we also, Sandra and I we're working with between 400 and 500 youth every summer in Guadalajara. And we want to continue that stream of young people from the States to come in and work with us to get that experience, to be a blessing to the national church, not just us, not just our work and what we're doing, but we want to continue to resource the national church there in Guadalajara and the surrounding area, to take ministry teams in and to be a blessing to them, as well as construction. I'm looking for a construction coordinator, someone that would says, you know what, I'm not a preacher, but I can build something. The reason why I say all that is we want to continue to resource the national church. And of course, they will work with us as well at the IC Guadalajara plant. But I can't do all that.
Right.
In the past, I did all the teams, I did all the construction, and I led all that. But what God wants to do in this season of our ministry with ICGDL is much, much more than just, me and two or three people can do. Thus, we're looking to assemble a great team to come and work with us.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great opportunity, for a variety of types of exposure and experience, from short term right on down to this, as you'd mentioned, the pipeline program or the missionary associate program. That sounds very attractive. And I know we'll be praying for you guys, for the right candidates, for the right people to get involved for the accomplishment of your overall mission. We're actually coming up on our time here. I've got one question I want to ask you that hopefully you can elaborate on a little bit. And if possible, I'd like to, maybe we can get back on the schedule. I know I'm doing some traveling. I know you're quite busy, but maybe over the next weeks here, we can get back on the schedule for a second go round.
Sure.
I've got a number of questions. I'll send you the body of them in an email so that you can look at those and prepare in advance for our next time to talk. Really wanted to take as much time as we could today to talk about what you guys were planting, what you're doing. The name of our podcast here, From the Forefront, we're looking for people who are at the forefront doing something. That the essence of leadership is action. And so we're trying to inspire people, not only who are already acting, but we're trying to inspire people who are thinking about and contemplating action. So in kind of in light of that, and I know I haven't given you this question in advance, so I understand if you're not as prepared as you'd like to be. Sorry about that. But
go ahead.
What would you tell a young missionary or somebody who's considering going? You're kind of a father in this effort after as many years and as many assignments as you've had. The first step often is the most difficult one to take, and that the one the enemy certainly wants to prevent in regard to missions.
Right.
Does something come to mind that you would want to pass on to a young missionary who's feeling a calling, or someone who's feeling a calling and trying to decide to step out? What would you say to that person?
Well, that is a great question, Scott. First, I'd tell them to go to our website.
Okay, there you go.
Which is peacock, like the bird, peacockministries.org.
Okay.
Or peacockministries.com. They could also go to icgdl.com, and it would also reroute them to our website, because that's currently under being laid out.
Sure.
So that's what I tell them. Go to our website and look at some of the information there, first of all. Secondly, Scott, when Sandra and I went out 30 years ago, I was 29 years old. Sandra was pregnant. We had a child on the way. And a lot of times people use that as, well, I can't go. I can't take, and that's just really up to you. You've got to follow your leading in that. We knew we were called to go. We knew the door had opened for us. I was an ordained Assemblies of God minister, and the Assemblies of God has probably the finest world missions program. And so that was an option for us as an AG minister.
Yeah.
However, we connected with someone down south who already had an established ministry, was not he was Assemblies of God, but he was not within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God was blessing him
Sure.
and went down and ministered the door. They opened the door for us to come. So it was kind of a right now
Mm-hmm.
call.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first of all, I would recommend, and this is what we did. My wife and I, we prayed a lot about it and really got God's confirmation as to this is the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, we sought out our leadership. We didn't want to just go rogue or just do our own thing. We wanted to be in the will of God.
Sure.
And so we personally went to those who were our leaders in the organization, and we shared our heart, our vision, our call, and we submitted to their counsel.
Mm-hmm.
And, they counseled us.
Yeah.
The door was open and to go through that door. And then they gave us some other guidelines. So I would say, look, go to your pastor, go to the person, the people that you submit to spiritually in leadership, and share your heart with them and ask them to pray with you about this. And, someone said provision always follows the vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that provision follows the mission, because this is God's mission. It's not my mission. It's not your mission.
Right.
This is God's mission. And when God calls us to mission, and whether it's here at home or abroad, provision will follow. And that's the key word, follow.
Mm-hmm.
You rarely have all the money that you need to do what you want to do, right?
Right.
But as you take that step of faith, if God is calling you and you've submitted and your leadership is in agreement, know that as you begin to take those steps of faith in God's direction, in the direction of mission, then provision will soon follow. And also, I would recommend that you begin to prepare. Hey, if you're going to Mexico, start taking some Spanish classes. Start reading about Mexican culture, because you're not going there. We didn't go there to change those people.
Right.
We went there to tell them about Jesus and let the Holy Spirit bring the changes within their cultural setting that he wanted to bring. Right.
Yes.
And so begin to read about the culture of the country that you're going to work in. And so those are a couple of things. And two, listen, God will confirm his call in your life. And that's important, because there will be times as you begin to go through the process, because it's really hard. Like you said, that first step, that's the most difficult step in the process. But you know what? God, you're going to be somewhere in the process, maybe even get to the field, and you're going, man, what am I doing here, right? What am I doing here? Well, you got to go back to that call. You got to go back to that moment where you knew that God was speaking to you, that this was his will for your life. And so those were just some of the things that personally we experienced, and some things that I would recommend to anyone who was contemplating being a part of a missions work.
Wow. Excellent input, Ernie. Thank you very much that's extremely concise, but there is so much inside of what you said. So many key pieces of encouragement there that obviously extremely comprehensive. You took a minute there and gave us, something we can break down in over a month, so thanks for that.
Well, hopefully it'll help someone.
No question it will. Those are powerful things. So thanks for sharing that. As I mentioned, I'll send you a follow-up email. Maybe we can get on the schedule, and I'll get some details over. You'd mentioned peacockministries.com, ICGDL.com, Peacock Ministries like the bird, and I'm assuming ministries is plural. And .org.
.com or org, either one.
Okay, either one. And as you'd mentioned, also the ICDL.com site is redirecting to your main site while you're pulling everything together.
Developing
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there an info at peacockministries.com or some email address or anything else you'd like to give?
Yeah, there's a link there. If you scroll down on the page, and my 30-year-old's telling me I need to reduce my content, but That said, I'm listening. Okay. So now it's a matter of making time. But yeah, if they scroll down a little bit, there's a contact.
Okay.
There may even be a contact link. I'm not looking at it. That will basically, you can submit your information. It will come directly to me, and then we can dialogue from that point.
Excellent. Now, can people find content about what you guys have done? Maybe some of your ministry resources and stuff like that. Can they find that on your website?
There's a video on our website. It kind of gives you a 30-year overview of many of the things that we've been involved in. It's about 4 minutes.
Okay.
But it just kind of introduces you to me and my family. Awesome. And then it just shares with you a lot of the ministry that we were involved in.
Awesome. Well, with your permission, I might backlink to that when the blog here is published, so that people can click straight through to that. And once again, thanks for joining us. And let me say this too. I really appreciate your faithfulness for the gospel and in the mission of Christ over as many years and as many efforts and as many projects and as many cities and relationships. I know, having been in Christ about 30 years myself, a little less than you, I know the challenges that come and the things that try to derail us. And I just want to say thank you for your commitment and your follow through for the gospel.
Well, thank you, Scott. I believe we've got the best job in the world. So
absolutely,
we just thank the Lord for His call.
This podcast made possible through the partnership of Engaging Missions Show, bringing missions home, and encouraging you to hear a message, make connections, and take action. Find out more at engagingmissions.com. Thanks for joining us for the FX Missions podcast from the forefront. If you'd like to find out more about FX Missions, please do so at our blog, fxmissions.com. Quite a bit of content out there. We hope you enjoy it. Also, if you'd like to rate us on iTunes or whatever podcast service you use, we would really appreciate it. And find out more about today's guest at our Facebook page. Just search for From the Forefront on Facebook. If you know of someone who should be featured on From the Forefront because of their forefront missions experience or exploits, please reach out to us at info@fxmissions.com. Thanks again for joining us. And until next time, I'm Scott McClelland, and you have a good one.